Hasson's next.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll echo your words towards our colleague from New Jersey. It's been a real pleasure and an honor. To Mr. Johnson, thank you for being here and for the work you already do. I'm going to hit on a couple of the same themes you've heard from others this morning, but let's start with the independence of inspectors general. The Inspector General for Tax Administration plays a key role in ensuring that all Americans are treated fairly under the tax code. I've worked across the aisle with my colleagues to strengthen the independence of inspectors general across all of the federal government. Taxpayers obviously deserve, as we do in every agency, a vigilant watchdog on their behalf. As Inspector General, how will you maintain your independence in your work on behalf of taxpayers?
That's a great question. As I've said before, I have a proven track record of being objective and independent in my roles in the federal government as a former federal prosecutor, as an SEC enforcement attorney, and now at an OIG where I'm a senior executive and live exactly what you're talking about, which is to maintain independence. Obviously, we coordinate with our parent agency,
right.
And I believe that having productive conversations are part of the statute and part of how the IG is supposed to work. It's not necessarily adversarial, but it does need to be independent. And so there are things that the IG has to tell the secretary at the VA, it's the VA secretary, that are uncomfortable truths. But ultimately the goal from all entities, including on the Hill, is that the agency work, at its optimum, that it is providing the services to its constituents, that it is being efficient, that it is not wasting money. And so we really all share the same goal, even if there may be parts of the agency that are having to be criticized. And so I believe that if you have a relationship of trust and integrity, if the secretary knows that what you are going to say is really for the betterment of the agency, not to score political points, not to get your name in the paper. If you build that level of trust, then when you do say you've got a problem and we're about to issue a report and we're going to outline what facts we found and what recommendations we have for you, it has a greater chance of actually getting implemented, which I think is really important. If you have an adversarial relationship where there's levels of distrust, then ultimately the IG will be ineffective with, I think, the agency head. So my goal would be to kind of maintain that structure of making sure that I am always professional in my interactions with both the Hill and with the agency head, that they can always rely, regardless of my personal belief, that whatever I say or report on is going to be objectively accurate and also independent of any type of politics.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Obviously, democracy doesn't work if the federal government isn't accountable to the very people it serves. And so transparency and accountability are critical, and that's always how I've seen the Inspector General role. So I appreciate that. And I want to, towards that end, follow up on what Senator Helmy was just talking about. The IRS obviously has a responsibility to deliver effective and timely services to all taxpayers. During the 2024 filing season, the IRS processed 40 million calls with an average wait time of around 3 minutes. This shows real progress from previous years that had unacceptably long call wait times. And I will just say, especially during the pandemic and post-pandemic, we just had constituents calling saying, I've been on the phone for hours and I can't get through. And so it has become a major focus of a lot of our constituent service teams to try to help constituents get through, literally, to the IRS. So there's been some progress. The IRS needs to continue building on this in the upcoming tax season. If confirmed, how would you use your role to oversee IRS efforts to improve taxpayer services generally?
So as I noted earlier, I think one way is to shine a spotlight on it and make sure that those programs and any changes are being evaluated and the facts are being found and that the recommendations and the findings are being reported to Congress so that you're aware of it. And if there's positive trends, Congress should be aware because that may impact what type of legislation or lack of legislation you think needs to happen or funding. But if there are new problems or recurring problems, again, I think that that's something that Congress needs to have to be able to make the right decisions legislatively.
Well, I appreciate that, and following up also on what Senator Hemley said, that reaching out to our constituent service teams and garnering information from them may be a very important resource for all of you. Thank you.